the front page of the Mirror, as we've already discussed, they're talking about victims of the energy crisis. And inside on pages 6 and 7, there's Diane Skidmore, she's over there on the right-hand side in a smaller picture, whose bills have jumped 50% in the past few months, from 40 quid to £66. She wears a blanket most days to keep the chill out, and she only puts the heating on at 4 o'clock for half an hour when she really can't stand it anymore. Next to her, the main picture on that page there, is 98-year-old Jack Mortimer, a D-Day veteran who only puts his heating on every other day and is paying arrears on his heating because of what looks like an error by his energy company, which says he owes them 300 quid and they weren't taking the right amount for ages. So now he's trying to pay it off and hasn't got the right cash for it. And now he can't afford to heat it more often. So, I mean, Jason, the Mirror and Labour and some Tories have all been calling on the Prime Minister to cut VAT on energy bills to try to ease this pain. We're hearing some rumours today that this might actually be yet another U-turn, and it will happen. But is that going to be enough to help people like Diane and Jack?
It's something. I mean, it's not going to solve it in itself. And as Paul, who's asking a question here, points out, that inflation is rising rapidly as well. I mean, what this report brings home is, one, it's people in old age should have dignity, and the other thing it rams home is that actually the amount of money they get is very tight. They're living on small pensions, and in normal times that just about covers the cost. But in times like this, when the price of fuel and food are going up, inflation is going up, then it becomes very, very tough. And the fact that we also report today that pensioners are having to go to shopping centres to keep warm and staying there for hours on end because they don't want to go back to cold homes, that's just appalling.
Yeah.
And
there's one couple in that spread. That couple, I can't remember their name now, but it's absolutely astonishing. They had their boiler got condemned, and they're not able to. They don't seem to. It was £6,000 to have it fixed, so they didn't have it fixed. It's Denico's Italian Cafe in Crossgate Shopping Centre in Leeds. They get regular people going in just to sit there and keep warm. This is Elizabeth Comiskey and her husband Peter, who are 73 and 70. And he's a former NHS nurse. Their gas was cut off because of a leak. Their boiler got condemned. They can't afford the £6,000 to replace it. So they have no gas. They have no heating. They go and sit in Denico's. And because that's the place that's warmest for them. And Elizabeth's there saying she'd quite like to have a holiday, but somewhere with a bath, because they're washing in cold water. This is Victorian. This is not acceptable to anybody anywhere. And I can't help thinking, Jason, that if we had people in government who had ever had to worry about the difference between 46 quid and 60 quid, who couldn't find that £14. If we had people like that in government who knew what every penny was actually worth, they would be able to fix this, or at least understand it, and try to fix it harder. But you've got people in government to whom 14 quid is breakfast.
And things like the kind of the help with warm homes, that's kind of that hasn't changed in a decade. Winter fuel payments haven't changed in a decade. So you've got the squeeze there. And then don't forget that for an awful lot of people as well, the 1st of May, you get your national insurance bills go up. So you've got inflation, you've got fuel bills going up by kind of, £300 or £400 in some cases. And you've got national insurance tax rises on top of that. This is a major squeeze. And the government has kind of, as you said right at the top of this, Boris Johnson, when it was suggested that, actually cutting VAT by 5% down to zero was the most sane and quickest way to do something about it, was what, as we said, we've been calling for, Labour's been calling for, the Lib Dems have been calling for, paid for by a windfall tax on the oil and gas companies who are making masses of money at the moment. Kind of Shell and BP made $3 billion between them in the last 3 months of last year. That's, they've got the money. But there's a very, obvious solution to this, but Boris Johnson ruled it out.